Chainsaw Man is one of the strangest manga I've ever read. It's weird and obtuse, carved from these jagged explosions of emotion. It was written by Tatsuki Fujimoto, a man as strange as he is bizarre. Because Fujimoto is, in many ways, an outsider to the manga industry, not only foregoing the more traditional route of studying under an established mangaka. Fujimoto's inspiration for Chainsaw Man was not Japanese, but Western. Its opening referencing everything from Attack of the Killer Tomatoes to Reservoir Dogs. The actual inspiration for the series' deuteragonist being Eric Cartman. And so, the question is, what happens if you give someone like that a shonen manga? And where that answer begins is with Chainsaw Man's protagonist, Denji. See, Denji is about as bleak a shonen protagonist can be. Crushed under his dead father's debt, Denji is forced to work for the Mafia, who forced this 16-year-old boy to fight low-level devils while simultaneously harvesting his organs. The one shred of joy in Denji's life being Pochita, the tiny chainsaw devil. The two etching out what little happiness they can in their little sadness shack. Any day ending with them splitting a single slice of bread, a good one. Well, at least things can't get any worse. Denji and Pochita are attacked, butchered, and thrown into a dumpster by the Mafia. Fortunately, Fujimoto has rent to pay. Pochita becomes Denji's heart, under the condition he will follow his own dreams, creating the titular Chainsaw Man. And after a short-lived battle, we meet Makima, a really nice person who doesn't put the fear of God in me, as she clutches the filthy, battle-worn Denji. Makima's introduction is very important to Chainsaw Man. Makima is the first person to show Denji any kind of real affection, even if that affection feels covered in the occult shadiness of her government position. Still, Makima has a definite warmth to her. Makima's panels, often gentle, but undercut with a terrible possibility. Something best shown when she tells Denji that if he doesn't prove himself useful to the government, he will be put down, like a dog that can't learn tricks. That comparison may seem cruel, but what it isn't is far-fetched. Denji's suboptimal upbringing caused him to have a very low sense of drive. Things like jammy bread or hugging a girl, pipe dreams that could never happen to him. And because of it, the story will, at multiple points, refer to Denji as a dog. Denji knowing that to Makima, to the government, to the people around him, he is someone meant to follow orders. But now having to look deep inside of himself to keep his promise to Pochita, as he joins the violent but slightly more livable world of devil hunters. Denji's lack of ambition is central to Chainsaw Man's style and feel. Think of your average shonen protagonist, characters like Goku, Luffy, Naruto. They were born in the power-obsessed 80s and 90s, when Japan was experiencing an unprecedented economic boom. But Denji comes from a different place. Denji is every college student forced into a sweltering apartment. He's every starving artist, he's every person putting food on the table. Denji is a representation of what it means to be a young person entering the adult world. And it's that white-hot relatability that I think has let Denji and Chainsaw Man overcome the seas of battle shonen. And it's a relatability that only grows stronger as we enter Chainsaw Man's second arc. See, one of the unfortunate consequences of Denji getting access to basic living conditions is that he realizes that an unlimited amount of jammy bread is not a supplement for meaningful goals. But don't fret, Denji finds a purpose on the floor of a filthy apartment. Denji's new life goal being to touch some boobs. I've definitely lost at least a few of you, but I swear this goes somewhere meaningful. Just give me like 5 minutes. Anyway, Makima inadvertently helps Denji in this by pairing him with the fiend Power. Devils in Chainsaw Man's world are beings built from concepts that people fear, and fiends are a type of devil that have taken over a human's body. And now captured, Power must, like Denji, prove her worth to the government or be eliminated. Power specifically is the blood fiend, meaning that if Denji wants to complete his boob quest, Denji must, for the first time in his life, compromise with other people. Power, however, is a fucking nightmare. Having no regard for any being that isn't herself, she enters Chainsaw Man's story as a barely contained tornado of chaos. And you can actually see this in every part of her design. Her constant fidgety movements and loose, disheveled clothes, like she doesn't really understand what they are or what their purpose is. Power doesn't eat her vegetables. Power doesn't shower. Power sucks her friend's blood at night. Power is the worst. And all of this makes Power entertaining, if not sympathetic. But the reason she's both is because, like Denji, Power has an exception. On one of Power's naked murder rampages, she encounters a skinny stray cat. But rather than eat it, Power decides to fatten the cat up and devour it later. A plan which begins to unravel as she develops an affection for the cat, even naming it Meowie. An affection that grows so strong that she agrees to let Denji touch her boobs if he can get him back from the Bat Devil. Yeah, I forgot we were talking about that too. But this also brings up a really great point about Fujimoto's character work, and how it feels so distinct from the rest of the industry. Pick a character out of Chainsaw Man's secondary or even tertiary cast, and you will likely be able to find at least one exception written into their character that helps humanize every other part of them. Katana Man and his grandfather, these three brothers' unhinged belief in themselves, how Kobani is just really good at DDR, and Aki, who we'll touch on later. But my personal favorite example is Quan Chi. Quan Chi is a Chinese assassin who was introduced by saying that if every person on Earth was in a barehanded fighting competition, Quan Chi would win. Quan Chi is badass, and along with her horde of lesbian zombies, can turn any page into these cacophonies of madness and destruction, a la Berserk. But what I love the most about Quan Chi comes from a moment that I missed the first time, where in exchange for a difficult mission, she only asks that her posse of zombie girlfriends be given education and human rights. And it's such subtle character work, but it shows how some of Fujimoto's even straightforward characters can have these archetypal shells latched off of them. The larger point I'm getting at is that Fujimoto is adept at writing characters with exceptions, and it's over the course of Denji retrieving Meowie that the exceptions between Denji and Power begin to spaghettify and tangle. Denji even relating his love of Pochita to Power's love of Meowie. And this is yet another aspect I love about Chainsaw Man, that even when the plot is as stupid as a guy wanting to touch a pair of boobs, it allows its characters this constant surge of development. But it's after this arc that something even more important begins to happen. After Denji, it fills Denji with a mildly hilarious but devastatingly relatable existential crisis. Just one more reminder that he's filled his life with another meaningless goal. And who else is there to fill that void but Makima, explaining to Denji the value of romantic connection. There being more sensuality in this one panel of Makima biting Denji's finger than in the entirety of the boob arc. What I really appreciate about this arc is how Denji grows, his understanding of platonic and romantic relationships blossoming from nothing, and launching him up the hierarchy of needs as he enters Chainsaw Man's third arc. We've now looked at how Fujimoto humanizes his characters, and how the appeal of Denji and Power comes from the dynamic, organic change in their personalities. But one last piece is still missing. One piece called Aki. Because Chainsaw Man is not the story of a dynamic duo, but a trio. We actually meet Aki before Power. Right as Denji is settling into his new home, Aki is assigned as his roommate. But the reason I waited to mention him is because originally, Denji and Aki fucking hate each other. See, Aki has always been this deeply tragic figure within Chainsaw Man's story. His entire family killed by the Gun Devil, he throws himself at the government, hell-bent on revenge, disregarding everything and anything that does not directly help him do that. My favorite example is Aki's house. Aki's house is this minimalistic hellscape, everything in it having a specific mechanical purpose. The room having no imprint of Aki as a person, leaving it as this kind of unsettling, dull location. Even Aki's weapons, his sword, is a contract with the devil, one that shortens his life every time he uses it, all in the pursuit of Aki's one single-minded goal. But like Denji and Power, Aki has an exception. Himino is Aki's oldest friend in the government, but Aki is Himino's sixth partner, all the others having died without her being able to stop it. And it's something you can feel beyond Himino's demeanor. The first word of dialogue Himino ever has with Aki being, "Don't die." Because under Himino's bravado and bullshit, Himino is just as broken as Aki. And that is why Aki allows her to be the one person to crack between his walls and see him, the person. He shares with Himino his anger, his desire, his fears. And this bond is perfectly demonstrated through their shared exception: smoking. One of my favorite scenes from early Chainsaw Man is during a flashback of Himino and Aki, in which she tells him that he will have to pick up smoking so that she can have a smoking buddy. Aki says, no, that cigarettes rot your bones, but that he will smoke this one cigarette this one time. Smash cut to present day, Aki desperately asking Himino for a cigarette, going so far as to pluck hers out of her mouth. Not only is this objectively pretty funny, but it's also a really great way of showing the sheer impact Himino has had on Aki. And just imagine all of that. Imagine being Aki. Imagine pouring your entire life into your single-minded ambition of killing the Gun Devil. And then imagine somebody also wants to kill the Gun Devil to touch some boobs. And now you understand the depths of Aki's hatred. Aki viewing Denji as an insult to his lifelong revenge, and Denji viewing Aki as just another authority figure telling him what to do. And Power just over there. These three people hate each other, and part of Chainsaw Man's appeal is having those concessions erode that. Power and Denji do grow somewhat close over the course of the boob arc, but that only becomes meaningful as Chainsaw Man drags through its later arcs. And as they live together and fight enemy after enemy after enemy, those concessions between all three of them become more meaningful. At first, things like Power healing Aki so that he can make her food, Aki giving Denji and Power gum so that they shut up, or all three of them comforting Power as she has a nightmare. And you realize that these people have become each other's exceptions. This is about as much of Chainsaw Man's story as I am willing to spoil. I've left out a lot of the more battle shonen details for two reasons. One, I think they're cool enough that you should discover them on your own, and two, is because I don't think that the appeal of Chainsaw Man comes from an application of a traditional shonen. It might be Fujimoto, it might be Denji, but I think that what makes Chainsaw Man so good is not just its amazing characters and action, but how it's new. That while it may be hard or not traditional, that Chainsaw Man is absolutely a story worth watching. And that is why you should still read Chainsaw Man.